He is opening up the borders to people we don't even vet. We don't know who among them is a criminal, who among them is a pedophile, who's an alcoholic, who likes children, who is convicted of murder, who's a Latin king. Don't we have the right to know that in the United States of America?
Yeah, so we have the right to know how many drugs are carrying in? How many people maybe had too much skill? And whose songs can see now? Answer me that! So we not have the right to know how many drugs are coming across the border, Allison?
Did she say Latin?
Well, because if they're alcoholics, they're going to be drinking the wine that she would otherwise have access to, right?
That's right. That's right.
They're coming over here and taking our wine coolers.
That's right.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to guess that her bra is hanging on the chandelier at Husong's Cantina. I don't know it for a fact. I'm just going to say.
Did she say Latin kings in there?
Pardon me?
Latin kings?
Latin
I
kings.
have no idea.
Don't know what she
What does
said.
that mean?
Jeez. It's unbelievable.
Okay. Prissy little human bow tie, Tucker Carlson talking about the loss of manhood, and Judge Jeanine concerned about the number of drunks that we're letting. Okay. There is a God. He wants us to be happy, AG. So now, the other human irritant lately for me, by the way, I only watched, I'm getting better. I've stopped watching Bill Maher, and I've only watched like a minute of Chuck Todd, and like,
Or as you called him earlier today, Chunk Todd.
Chunk Todd.
What did he say this morning? That kids today are paying the higher interest rates than their parents on home loans? That's so not real.
You're like, what, are these parents 35? What? Okay. Wow. So, yes, you retweeted 50 Shades of Way, who said, watching Bill Maher's transformation from creepy uncle to creepy ignorant uncle has been quite the spectacle. Is he aware that the only people quoting him nowadays are right-wing white men who start their sentences with, even Bill Maher says, and you just said, seriously, HBO, I'm available. I am so with that. HBO, the Allison Gill Show. Hello.
I have a better Rolodex, but you know what?
He's a right-wing talking point now. There was something about how, like, what would tip him to be a Republican, and it was spending. I'm like, Joe Biden has cut the deficit. Like, that's not even a correct talking point. But he's just like, oh, I don't know, these bills that they're talking about, they're just pulling the money out of their ass. It's like, what?
Yeah, and you and I are old enough to remember when we watched Dennis Miller go through this.
Yes. Yes.
Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're kind of used to this, and you know, and then he just went full on right wing weirdo, and it's sad to watch. It's very sad to watch.
Yes, I stopped watching. It did not spark joy for
God.
me anymore. You tweeted, since Republican candidates pick their own worst traits and accuse their opponents of it, what would you accuse your opponent on if you were a GOP candidate? Mine would be, my opponent doesn't wash the dinner dishes until the next morning. I always knew you were a monster. I mean, I love you anyway, but I knew you were that kind of monster. It doesn't.
Yeah, it just works out better for me. But it's just the projection, with Judge Jeanine, it's just absolutely bonkers. The just outright projection of people, of traits that they hate about themselves onto other people.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, let's talk. Just go back to January 6th for a minute, because again, since we won't see coverage like commensurate with how important it is in the mainstream media, let's talk about this text story with Mark Meadows. First of all, is there a human that Mark Meadows has not texted, that was not texting with?
Everyone.
Wow.
Did you get a text? I did not. Okay. In the weeks between the 2020 election and the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, almost 100 text messages from two staunch GOP allies of Trump reveal an aggressive attempt to lobby, encourage, and eventually warn the White House over its efforts to overturn the election. Chip Roy, who is not, we think it's a steakhouse putt-putt in Amarillo, or was it Lubbock? Where is it?
Lubbock.
Chip Roy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Okay. And Mike Lee, obviously these text exchanges show both members of Congress initially supported legal challenges to the election, but ultimately came to sour on the effort and the tactics deployed by Trump and his team. We are driving a stake in the heart of the Federal Republic, Roy texted Meadows on January 1st. Oh, that belongs in the now a warning category. So they're all for this until they realize, I guess, how insane it is and that they have no case, right? So he texted Meadows, this effort could backfire badly. Shortly before the election, both men were encouraging Trump to keep fighting. On November 7th, Roy wrote to Meadows, we need ammo, we need fraud examples, we need it this weekend. Lee lobbied Meadows to get Sidney Powell, oh my God, crazy Sidney Powell, access to Trump. Then they watch her press conference, go, oh my God, she's crazy, don't talk to her. I mean, this behind the scenes thing, right, is just insane. let's see, 2 hours after the Powell press conference, Lee texted Meadows with serious concerns, saying he's worried about the Powell. The person they just said one text ago was a straight shooter and a whatever. He said, let's see, the potential defamation liability for the president is significant here for the campaign and for the president personally, unless Powell can back up everything she said, which I kind of doubt she can. By November, he shifted away from Powell started promoting John Eastman. Roy was also texting Meadows saying, friggin' Rudy needs to hush. Okay, so everyone agreed Rudy's crazy, so that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah. The president should call everyone off. It's the only path. If we substitute the will of the states through electors with a vote by Congress every 4 years, we've destroyed the Electoral College. I mean, this is like just a crazy car, right? Allison, I think I said Saturday, it was like they all stole a car and went joyriding, and then at some point they realized, oh my God, and just dove out the window, right? But there's still libel. They're still part of the crime, right?
Yeah, and I mean, this is pretty much what happened with Bill Barr too, right? Bill Barr was fine going on national TV and lying about vote by mail being rife with fraud, or it can be totally fraudulent. I have to warn everybody, just spreading the big lie. But then when it came down to the nuts and bolts of actually having evidence of fraud, there was none. And Barr said, I'm not going to create fraud out of whole cloth where it doesn't exist. And that is, I think, the same felt was like, hey, if there's election fraud, show us. And it seems like Lee was like, hey, this Sidney Powell person, I think she's going to bring us actual evidence of election fraud. And then when he heard what she had to say about Venezuela and the Dominion voting machines, he's like, oh, it's not really an election fraud. Oh, grab the,
Yeah.
and was like, okay, there's no election fraud here. We can't be pushing constitutional election fraud, et cetera, if there isn't any and there's no proof of it. So then they started to back away.
Yeah, I love this. The last was one of the last Chip Roy texts to Meadows is, this is a show. Fix this now. I mean, they've been involved up until now, and now they're, I mean, I don't know what your take is on they did not join their colleagues in objecting to the actual presidential election results, but to me they're all culpable in that regard. Like Cruz and the rest of them went even farther, right? In terms of okay, I don't know what the consequences should be and what degree of involvement you judge, like say Chip Roy and a what's his name? What's the other
Lee.
guy? Yes, yeah. Mike Lee, as opposed to the Josh Hawley and the Ted Cruz. How do you judge those two in terms of January 6th and the insurrection?
Well, criminally speaking, it's going to be very hard to go after any of them because the speech or debate clause. They can simply say they were doing their job as members of Congress. It's a very, very good defense. It's one that they would likely win on. And so I think DOJ is going to focus less on members of Congress and more on like the Bannons and Eastmans and Trumps of the world. Because they aren't protected by that speech or debate clause. But I personally think that the Howley and the Cruz and that ilk, the people who went along with it despite knowing there was no fraud, still went along with it. To me, that is seditious conspiracy, especially if you're acting in furtherance of obstructing an official proceeding. It's at least that. But that's a tough case when you're a Congress member. They pretty much let you do it when you're a star. You can do anything.
Yeah. They grabbed the Electoral College by the is what your point is.
Yeah. That's what they did.
Yes, Travis.
Oh, just a little different subject. People have been wondering about Malcolm Nance. MSNBC.
Yes, I spoke to him on the phone this weekend.
MSNBC just posted a video. A Russian missile has landed in the western city of Ukraine, or Lviv in Ukraine, as Ali Rizzi was interviewing Malcolm Nance live on MSNBC.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of things I can't tell you, but Malcolm called me. We had a very long conversation. Good. Yes. We'll be able to. There's a lot of things I really, really, really want to say, but I can't, Allison. But you'll know soon. Huh? Yes, same. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, by the way, Michelle tweeted, I'm a bit biased as I've been an Allison Gill Mueller. She wrote listener and fan since the kitchen table days, and I miss Eric Bowler, but can we honor Eric and have Allison every Monday? She speaks the truth. Well, we're going to do the show from my jacuzzi next Monday. We've already decided.
Oh, Lord, dear.
All right, she's going to be here in L.A. in studio.
Yeah.
I would like it to be whatever, waterproof stuff. We'll figure it out. Anyway, Allison will be here with us next Monday as well.
Yes.
When you say we'll figure it out, you mean I will figure it out.
Waterproof it. Waterproof it. Figure it out.
All right.
Okay. You're like a little twig I'm clinging to in the stream. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. I hope I'm right.
It will be good to have someone in the studio.
I
So,
know. Yes, we
we'll
miss
love
it.
that. Yeah.
We miss it. Yeah. All right. So anyway, interesting. Take your take is always interesting on all that. I'm just what's gonna. Here's the thing: have this many people always been this crazy in this country? Because whether it's January 6th, what's anything, one conspiracy theory replaces another completely crazy conspiracy theory. I mean, your thing about that, the criminal referral is not necessary to DOJ on January 6th, because I think Joyce Vance, right, made the point that was, she thought, part of what happened in the Governor Whitmer thing, that, which is insane to me that those people were not convicted. But have you heard this latest Republican gubernatorial candidate, Garrett Soldano? This guy? He shared a conspiracy theory that Governor Whitmer plotted with the FBI to fake her own kidnapping in an effort to have a direct impact on the 2020 election results after the two suspects were found not guilty last week. Oh, Allison has done a full facepalm. Okay.
Great.
Michiganders deserve an answer. All we saw last week, the FBI conceived a plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer and preyed on Michiganders to push it along. Did Gretchen Whitmer play a role in these targeted efforts to influence the 2020 election? Was Gretchen Whitmer working with the FBI to fake her own kidnapping? Okay, so that's the other, is the FBI was behind January 6th and the right something.
I don't think people have gotten more crazy. I think that prior to 2016, the highest level crazy person leader was like Jim Bob, the assistant manager at the Cracker Barrel. But then we get a president who promotes this stuff in the White House, which just opens up the door for all of the people to be loud about their misogyny, conspiracy theories, racism, bigotry, anti-LGBTQ+, anti-choice. That just gave them, oh, hey, it's okay again. It's not something to be ashamed of in America anymore if the president does it. And so, like I said, before, the highest level person they had was Jim Bob. Now it's the president of the United States, and it's the biggest tragedy, I think, to occur for the office and for the country probably for a really long time.
Yeah. This one, particularly as a homo, concerns me. The school board wars continue as the far right seeks to take over schools to restrict content involving people of color, LGBTQ individuals, and others to whom they object. Nevada candidate John Carlo was just filmed speaking at a church saying the U.S. Constitution demands that Americans procreate. He explained that because homosexuals can't give birth, they are unconstitutional.
What?
Wow. He did not address whether...
I can't give birth?
Right. He did not address whether heterosexual couples who are unable to have children are also unconstitutional. He didn't cover that. His complaint was about a book in a school library that he said made homosexuality acceptable. So, wow, I am both unacceptable and unconstitutional.
You can't give birth for many reasons.
Wow. I mean, I don't.
Have you been doing the infrared light on your junk again?
Is it conspiracies or is it just far-right psychosis that is set in? It's a Handmaid's Tale kind of right-wing psychosis that we are currently, right?
I'm scared that we're going to end up in America where half of our states or so are going to be religious theocracies with no books and homeschooling and no choice and no bodily autonomy, and then the rest of the states will be just like the rest, America. And I don't know what to do about that. I don't know how these federal protections against discrimination against protected classes can end when it's at the forefront. They're passing these laws. Of course, they won't make it through court. But then, I'm worried about the Supreme Court that we have now, especially with the handmaid sitting in the seat. Yeah. So I just have this vision of, like, I'm so glad I live in California.
Right.
But gosh, what is that going to look like in the future if these laws make it through somehow,
Yeah. Yeah.